What's up, everybody? You are back in here with the Pro Football Pod. The hiatus is over. We're back. We took a little summer break for you, but we're coming right back in time for these rankings here because you need this information before you dive into your drafts. If you're just here with us for the first time, being new viewers, we absolutely appreciate your time. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Follow on Twitter at ProFootball_pod. At 500 subscribers, we're doing a free jersey giveaway to one of you lucky viewers. The season's getting here, so you got to get your gear up. What's up, Coach? How was your 2 weeks off, buddy?
I feel like the best news that we've been waiting for the whole entire offseason finally happened within those 2 weeks.
As Dolphins fans, yeah.
I mean, not even just Dolphins fans. Honestly, like, if you're at all interested in fantasy, like Jordan Love getting locked up was absolutely a necessity for them.
So many quarterbacks got paid this offseason. Trevor Lawrence got paid. Dak Prescott's looking to get paid. Like,
not going to most likely, but yeah.
Yeah. The one hamper on Dak is he's 30, not 24, 25 years old like the rest of these guys.
Exactly.
But hey, we're here for fantasy rankings, just fantasy rankings, but in general, I guess this could be kind of no, I won't say that. I was going to say it's kind of a benchmark for, regular football rankings.
I don't
but
think
it's really not.
Yeah, especially,
it's really not.
I'll tell you why right now. It's because of who I have at my number 10. As far as a football player goes, I think that Joe Burrow is a phenomenal player. But from a fantasy perspective, with all of the pieces that some of these quarterbacks in my top 10 have, plus the rushing upside, I've got Joe Burrow.
Let's be honest, too, the injury history. And we even talked about it pre-show. Whenever we did our rankings, we didn't even discuss it, but we did our rankings with the thought of if these players are healthy.
If exactly.
But when you do have somebody, and that's Tua included, Dolphins, you've got Dolphins, Tua included, you have to take a history of injury into effect. I say that all the time with fantasy, especially my running backs. The best ability is availability.
Exactly.
So Joe Burrow being at 10, I do fully see it there. Go ahead and give us your 9 and 8 as well.
So I put Tua as 9 and CJ Stroud as 8. And to put it bluntly, these three guys don't have as much rushing upside as everybody above them. They're all on phenomenal offenses. They have a lot of weapons to be able to throw the ball to. They are going to be able to have a lot of touchdowns passing and a lot of yards passing. But because they're going to lack in the rushing aspect is why I have them at the bottom of my list.
Okay. I got you there. So my 10, 9, and 8 are Jordan Love at 10. I've got Kyler Murray at 9. And I've got Tua at 8.
So let me talk about Jordan Love as I'm showing him right now to the people out there what his stat line looked like last year. He had a lot of games of multiple rushes. He had one game where he rushed 9 times for 39 yards versus New Orleans, and they ended up losing that game. He rushed for 23, for 12, for 37, 34, 21, 39 again on just 3 rushes. They obviously liked him to use his legs. Now, he didn't utilize it as much in the last 5 games of the season, which is where he was at his best from a fantasy perspective. But I think that he's still young enough of a player. He's still in that medium, Patrick Mahomes level of I can run with the ball whenever I absolutely need to. And Kyler Murray just being such a star at rushing is why I have them both higher on my list.
So Jordan Love, I see what you're saying there in the Mahomes-esque of I can run, but I only run when I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
If he did utilize that more, he would have been higher on my list. Because when you do go through and look at it, yeah, he does have the handful of games where he went for 20, 30 yards. But unless he puts a rushing touchdown on the board as well, that's only a bonus of 2 or 3 points.
Yeah.
So for me, if I'm going to focus in on a guy as a rushing quarterback with that, I want to see at least like 6-7 rushing attempts on average a game. So that's why I've got Jordan Love at 10 there. I do have Kyler at 9. I'd have him higher, but kind of like the Dak argument with if CeeDee Lamb goes down, what will he do? Kyler made my top 10 because of his rushing ability.
Yeah.
But if Marvin Harrison Jr. goes down, I don't know what they plan on doing.
Yeah, I mean, Trey isn't going to be enough. They have Michael Wilson, but, like, they obviously don't have the pieces necessary. Like, Trey McBride he's great, but that's not enough. And Marvin Harrison is their offense at this point from, like, a pass-catching standpoint.
Like, they brought in Zay Jones, okay. They've still got Greg Dortch, like, okay, but that's my thing, is like nobody to lean on. So that's where his rushing absolutely comes into play.
And your 8 was CJ Stroud as well?
No, my 8 was Tua.
Tua, okay.
Yeah, I've got Tua 8. All the same, you can name off the reasons why. Like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane out of the backfield, like Jonnu Smith got brought in, Odell Beckham Jr. got brought in. It's another year in the system, another year with Mike McDaniel. He's one to where if he had any kind of rushing, like what you do see with Jordan Love, Tua would have made my top 5.
He
but
has
there's virtually no rushing from Tua.
The most
he doesn't have
passing yards last year, and he was top 5 in touchdowns from passing. Like, he had 3-4, 3-3. Like, he had a couple of bad games for sure, but the guy was an absolute monster in yardage. And that's, I feel like you said, it's another year in the system. He's obviously going to improve. I think that he has more weapons than Joe Burrow has and is in a better offense than Joe Burrow. Now this year we're going to see a change from Joe Burrow. We know that because they lost Mixon, they're obviously planning on passing the ball a lot more often. But I don't think that they're going to beat Tua's rate of passing, especially a lot of those games where he didn't have a lot of yards and touchdowns. It's because they were already winning in the first half. Raheem Mostert had 18 touchdowns last year. That's not going to happen again this year.
So just to go ahead and like keep talking on Joe Burrow, I'll give you my 7, 6, and 5. I've got Joe Burrow at 7.
Okay.
One spot ahead of Tua, specifically because of what you mentioned. Getting rid of Joe Mixon and bringing in Zach Moss tells me Zach Moss will do the dirty work as far as rushing is concerned, but Joe Burrow's probably going to let it fly about 35 to 40 times a game.
Yeah.
And because of that and getting more of those just passing opportunities, I have him just that little bit above Tua. I've got CJ Stroud at 6, and I've got Anthony Richardson at 5.
So I brought Jordan Love up to 7. I originally had him at more of like the 9-10 range. And then whenever I started looking into the rushing stats and also the expectation of what Jordan Love is going to do this year, he has 4 legit weapons in his disposal. None of them are necessarily number 1s, but all of them are wide receiver 2 or 3s.
He's got 4 very solid wide receiver 3s and a couple 2s.
And he has a 26-year-old running back that 2 years ago was the rushing champ, was coming off of a down year from last year, but the Raiders' offense was horrible. I think that
Don't
Josh
sleep
Jacobs...
on Austin's guy, Marshawn Lloyd, either.
Agreed. They have 2 very solid running backs, and I'm pretty sure they still have Dylan. They didn't let Dylan go. So they do have...
Not to mention the 2 tight ends that they drafted last year that both
Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Like...
Yep.
Both of them had decently solid like that's the one thing
Very
as far
young
as
team.
like, and I like you having Jordan Love decently high. Like we both have him in our top 10, but as far as the rest of the Packers like wide receiver room, I don't want to touch it because I don't know who's going to get what. But as a quarterback perspective, that doesn't matter. Like, he's got people to get the ball to no matter who goes down or who gets hurt. Like, it's not like it's going to affect their offense very much.
Now, I've got Kyler at 6, And for all of the reasons that I stated earlier, he has the most rushing upside. Everybody below Kyler does not have the rushing upside that Kyler does. That's the plain and simple of it. He didn't even really get hit and go down for the season. It was a non-contact knee injury. So I think that that's also a fluke thing that we're not necessarily going to have to deal with. Now, getting a little bit spicy, I have Patrick Mahomes in my 5. And the reason that Patrick's at my 5 is because of the rushing ability. Everyone's expecting this like deep pass play style from Hollywood and Xavier Worthy to be everything for this team. And if Rashee Rice doesn't miss any time at all, they're going to have a great offense. And I would probably have him higher up. But I think Rashee Rice is going to miss at least 6, probably 8 games off suspension. And if that ends up happening, I think Patrick ending below the top 4 rushing options at quarterback is very likely. Last year before the draft happened, he was the number 1 quarterback taken in a lot of leagues. Above Josh Allen, above Jalen Hurts, and it was a massive mistake. So I think that Patrick, he's right around 4 or 5 for me, but I've got a different player at 4. I've got Patrick sitting at 5.
I'm not mad at that. I do have Patrick a little bit higher. We'll get to him in a second. But so Anthony Richardson at my 5, he to me is the biggest boom and or bust quarterback for you. Like where you're drafting him right now, he has to finish as a top 5 quarterback for it to be worth it. 1 second.
Excuse me.
But man, if he hits and does anything like what you saw in the flashes you got last year, but not only that, he's developed in his passing.
Okay.
He could finish as QB1.
Agreed. So I'll give you a stat right here. Whenever Anthony Richardson played at least 96% of the snaps, which was only 2 games last year, he finished as a top 3 quarterback from fantasy perspective. He was number 3 week 1, and he was number 1 in week 3. Now, he missed a huge chunk of week 2. He only played in 32% of the snaps and was still 17.7 points in just 32% of the snaps. The guy only had 10 attempts passing, and he had 3 rushes for 35 yards. Like, he's an absolute anomaly at the position. I've got him as my 4. I've got him above Patrick Mahomes because of the rushing upside. He only played in 4 games last year. Now, that's obviously the huge risk. And whenever it comes to drafting this player, I think that around his draft position, I'm okay with spending a 5th round pick on a risky guy. I know for a fact that I'm going to try to pick up someone like Jaden Daniels or Tua or Brock Purdy, maybe even Caleb Williams as well later in the draft to try to mitigate some of that risk. But I'm very excited about taking this guy as the 6th quarterback off the board in most drafts in the 5th round. I think that he's easily a top 4 because of the rushing upside.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, he, without looking at it, didn't he rush for a touchdown in each game that he did play?
For the ones that he finished in,
yeah,
he scored
1 rushing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. And so that is the main thing, you know. Okay, we've got to keep you on the field, and you know that's been hammered into him ever since that injury happened. Like,
exactly.
Your value is when you're actually playing. You have him at 4. I've got Jalen Hurts at 4.
Ooh, spicy.
I've got Jalen Hurts. To me, he was gonna be a little lower, but because he has AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, like, and now Saquon Barkley, like, it's so hard with all of his weapons and his rushing ability to put him any lower than this spot to me.
Especially the rushing ability.
The argument's there for him to be higher.
Yeah.
But this was as low as I could settle on him.
So everything that you just said as far as options that he has to pass to is why I have Lamar Jackson at 3. It's because Lamar has Zay Jones, and we've heard that Rashad Bateman looks like the most improved player in camp.
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers, not Zay Jones. Yeah, my bad. He has Mark Andrews, but I feel like Jalen Hurts just has an overall better supporting cast around him, and he doesn't have a Derrick Henry type of player. Derrick Henry is not going to help Lamar Jackson get stats. He's going to help him to open up running lanes. He's going to help him to potentially put more people in the box so that he can have one less defender to have to worry about. But he's not going to legitimately add fantasy points for him in the way that Saquon is for Jalen Hurts. So because of that, I have Lamar at 3. It's super close. I think both of them are two of the best rushing quarterbacks in the league right now from a pure rushing standpoint. The only reason I have the last guy on the list, who we all know who it is, higher, is because he has nobody to compete with. He's basically the only guy on the offense, but you give your
So at 3, I have Pat Mahomes. I've got him there. You know, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, he knows Kelsey's getting towards the end of his career. They're actively going for a three-peat. Patrick did average pretty much like at least 25 rushing yards a game. He kind of gave me the range that I wanted to see, like 5, 6, 7 yard attempts a game. You know, if it's there, he's taking the easy 10 yards. His over-under rushing yards, prop betting-wise, was one of my favorite bets last year. It was, like, always guaranteed for the over because they could just never figure out what line to put him at. And not to mention the fact of, I think one of the biggest mistakes the Buffalo Bills could have done was to allow the Chiefs to get Xavier Worthy. Like, we all saw what he did with the athletic specimen that was Tyreek Hill. And you gave him somebody who compares to him in almost every way.
Yeah.
If anything, Xavier is a better route runner at his rookie season than Tyreek was. Tyreek came into the league as a running back. Like, running back utility gadget type of player. Just figure out where you can put him at. For that alone, like, you open that deep ball back up for Patrick, like, that's... I feel firm in that he'll finish top 3.
My only knock on Patrick Mahomes, and it's such a little nitpick, is 0 rushing touchdowns. He did a lot of yardage, like very solid from a yardage perspective. He also was forced to carry the team on his back almost entirely by himself. Kelce had a down year. Rashee Rice started to turn it up near the end of the season, but he was constantly having Kadarius Toney and these other players on his receiving core disappoint him. And
they also brought in Hollywood Brown too.
Exactly. And I think that the deep ball aspect will absolutely help them on some drives. And I don't think that they're going to have drives fizzle out more often than they had in the past. I just think that his rushing upside isn't as good as the 4 players I have above him.
I see that. No, I totally get you. His rushing upside is not. I just kind of feel like this could, because of if Rashee Rice can, you know, get his off the field shit figured out and actually be able to be on the field. You have Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, like Isaiah Pacheco. You still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Andy Reid. For me, that's just all a recipe for Mahomes to have a dominant year this season.
Jalen Hurts had 15 rushing touchdowns last year.
Oh, yeah, that's insane. That's why Saquon Barkley, his value is just way too high no matter where people have him, because he's going to get vultured like crazy.
The same amount as Josh Allen. And the only reason I have Josh Allen at number 1 is because he lost Stephon Diggs, because he lost Gabe Davis, because...
so who was your number 2?
Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts at 2,
okay.
Josh Allen at 1. The rushing touchdowns, the rushing yards, the rushing upside. Like, I know I've said it a bunch in this one video, but that is the aspect of quarterback play that matters the most. I know when we talked about the Houston Texans that I talked about how I loved CJ Stroud and I would take him in the 4th round. I'm backpedaling a bit on that. The more that I look into some of these rushing and like what it's going to be able to do. I think CJ Stroud,
unless you play in a league where you get 6 points for a passing touchdown.
absolutely. Then all of this is null and void. At that point, Joe Burrow's a lot higher on my list. Tua's a lot higher on my list. Like total touchdowns will matter the most. I think Patrick Mahomes is probably my number 1 or 2. Josh Allen isn't even number 1 if there's 6 points for passing touchdowns, because I think that he doesn't end with the total touchdowns higher than everyone else or the total yards higher than everyone else. But most standard leagues, even PPR leagues, you're going with the 4 points for the quarterback touchdown. You have to have Josh Allen. Now, am I going to spend a end of the second round pick on him? Probably not. I don't value the quarterback position in that way, but if you're absolutely, I need to have the best quarterback, if you're in a super flex, then Josh Allen super early is the way to go.
So at my number 2, I've got Lamar. And at number 1, I have Josh Allen. So Josh Allen, pretty much everything you said, like he's going to have to put the team on his back this year. So with his rushing ability and the factor of I have to do this, as long as he stays healthy, he very well should finish no less than a top 3 fantasy quarterback for you this season.
Exactly.
Lamar at number 2, you mentioned it earlier where, he's got Zay Flowers, he's got Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman's got another year with him there. They also drafted Devontae Walker out of North Carolina, who we talked a lot about in the draft season. But for me, yes, Jalen Hurts' weapons are better, but Lamar Jackson's rushing ability is better.
It is.
Jalen Hurts will get out of the pocket and give you maybe 20, 30 yards maximum on a scramble. Lamar Jackson, we've seen it multiple times, the guy break off a 70-yard run. And it's that big playability coming off of an MVP season. I do actually think Derrick Henry is going to open up more points for him, not necessarily in the passing aspect, but in the rushing aspect. Any read option type of offense that they run is going to be deadly, because who are you going to key on? Like, if they implement any kind of read option, RPO, with the ability for the quarterback to throw it or run it, like Josh Allen in Buffalo, they do that all the time to where he's looking to run first.
Yeah.
But if he's got the pass, then he'll just toss it off. Like, that could absolutely be deadly for Lamar. So that's why I've got him at 2. I've debated on putting him at 1, but I just couldn't do that for the fact of Josh Allen is a better passer to me. Yeah. And I do think Derrick Henry is going to vulture rushing touchdowns from him.
So 5 rushing touchdowns last year. That's my only knock against Lamar at all. The other 2 guys had 15. Their upside is higher from like a touchdown perspective, and part of it was that he passed for more touchdowns than both of them.
And what they have on, what Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen have on guys like and Anthony Richardson over Lamar, they've got the thickness to them.
Yeah, Lamar just dropped weight too.
Yeah, and so, okay, that's going to make you faster, but it also makes you more slender and prone to injury when you get popped. Like, so that to me, and that definitely correlates with the 5 rushing touchdowns versus 15.
Yeah. Those
guys are able to pound it in from the 2-yard line. Lamar's not necessarily doing that. Like, you're hoping that he's getting on the outside, and that's honestly so upsetting too, because last year Lamar betting wise for a touchdown, it was always kind of like even money, but he only got you 5.
Yeah. So
we got wide receivers and running backs coming up for you guys on the next week. We've got football starting is this week, this Thursday. We have the Hall of Fame game. We're back, baby. We have football now every week until February. I'm excited. Guys, we appreciate your time. 500 subscribers. We're giving away a free jersey. Hit the subscribe button down there on the bottom. Notification button up there in the corner. TulsiRoseTea.com is the sponsor. We love you guys. Peace out.